Hey everyone, you are watching The Rap Report, How to Get Away with Murder. I'm your host, Sophia Stanley, along with my fellow legal eagles.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Cornelia.
And what's up, everybody? This is Bam Erickson.
And what we're going to do for you today is we are actually just going to analyze, dissect, and basically investigate the first 5 episodes of How to Get Away with Murder. So what do you guys think? Off the record, totally off the record, what are your overall impressions of the show now that we've been able to watch the first 5 episodes?
For me, I really like it. I'm a fan of Viola Davis. I like the fact that you have kind of a, Viola, she's of a particular age, so she's like a veteran actress. And I like how it integrates, you have the young audience and then you have the older audience, and it's all combined together with these stories of student, teacher, but it's all integrated within their personal life. So I like it.
How about you, Cornelia?
I like it too. I like the show. I like the pace. However, it's hard for me to keep up with because it's so late in the day, and I feel like I can't eat or do anything while we're watching it because it's so much jumping. But
No,
it keeps me current, and it keeps me like trying to stay focused with the show. So I think it's a good show. I appreciate it. I like it.
No, that makes sense. And actually, you guys on Twitter, on Facebook, however you're watching us, let us know what day of the week do you watch it. Do you watch it on Thursday nights, or do you watch it on another day so you can kind of watch it in a vacuum, possibly on the weekends? Well, for me, I'm actually about 50-50 on the show. There's a part of me that I absolutely love it, and I think there are moments of brilliance where it's taking TV on a completely different ride. However, I'm not a fan of the flashbacks. So specifically with the Sam Keating murder, the fact that we found out that he was the person who was murdered in the first episode, I wasn't a fan of that. I would actually prefer for us to kind of build slowly and then possibly not discover that until episode 6 or 7. I kind of don't want to be spoon-fed, even if it takes me longer to figure something out. I'm definitely one of those viewers who kind of likes to figure something out versus being told what's going to happen.
Okay, I could see that point.
Yeah, so I'm about 50-50 right now. So how do we feel right now about the character development, and especially the weekly cases as it pertains to her special chosen law students?
I like the weekly whodunits because it seems that with every episode so far it focuses on each of the characters. So with this one you had Laurel. Did I say her name right?
Laurel.
It focused on her, and then a week before that, it was with Connor.
It was with
Connor, and then each week it seems like all of the law students kind of have something in particular that they do to kind of help push the case forward in Annalise's favor.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody gets their chance to shine, so you kind of get to see their personality based on the particular case they're working on. And that's good. I like how they did that because, it's just not throwing everybody in at one time. We're not seeing everybody trying to, get their shine per episode. It's very focused, which is good.
So, when I was kind of rewatching, because I've now rewatched all the episodes, I think about twice, and I was thinking to myself, okay, even though the writer of this show is Peter Novak, right, is the executive producer and the creator of the show, it's still a Shonda Land production, and we're kind of familiar with Shonda Land shows. And basically everything is put into the show for a reason. Like, there are no wasted scenes. And so what I started to think to myself is, I wonder if each weekly case is supposed to teach us something, right? So it could be possibly one of two things. Either, basically, as she's breaking down the weekly cases, she's telling you how to get away with murder. So, i.e., discredit the witness, you don't ask people for the truth, you pound the truth, voir dire in terms of jury selection. I wonder if the mechanics of each weekly case that Annalise is teaching us is then going to be relevant later on.
Oh.
I totally go ahead.
Go ahead, Bam.
No, I totally agree with that, Sophia, because particularly with this episode 5, with the whole jury selection, they literally broke down how to pick the jury. and how you need to, and for this case in particular, you had to pick the jury that would basically, because of, the nature of the case and because the boy did kill his father, now they needed to go a different way with the jury, and they literally taught how you need to handpick each of the jury members. So I do think that, Sophia, like you said, I do think that they are not only teaching you how to get away with murder and the whole legal aspects, but I think it's going to all fall into place for something that's later expected into the season 1.
Yeah, particularly how to get away with whoever murdered Sam.
Exactly.
That's the murder right there.
And do you think it's only Sam, or do you think it's possibly teaching us who murdered Sam as well as Lila?
Oh, I think probably more Sam, because they're not really telling us nothing about Lila. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
That's a really good point.
But the Lila story is there's two different storylines. So you have the whole, obviously, Sam is murdered, and Sam deals with pretty much all of the law students and Annalise and Annalise's boyfriend Nate. But the one with Lila deals more specifically with Annalise, Sam before he was murdered, and Wes and Rebecca. So there's two different stories that's going on.
Definitely.
Yeah, and they're intermingling the two together.
That's true, but they aren't really giving us details about that young girl's murder, except the couple of times they showed it on the news, the friend and the cell phone, but they're not really telling us. The only thing they told us about the cell phone was about the pictures. They're not telling us about no background conversation. They're not telling us what the girl was doing. They don't give us any information about her.
Okay, that's a good point. But let's actually kind of move on to the Sam case and possibly the Lila case. So, for instance, I'm thinking, and I'm just going to run through kind of in my head the other cases. So the dad who supposedly killed his wife, right? And he actually didn't kill his second wife, but he did kill his first wife. That whole case was kind of about your modus operandi, right? So like how, if you were a killer, how do you normally kill, right? So that's kind of the first nugget we found out about that case. Then with the insider trading, and I could be jumping around a little bit, but with the insider trading, there were a couple nuggets there, and one of them was loyalty to your boss, right? So it seems as if all of the law students or the chosen children are all loyal to Annalise. Are we kind of in agreement with that to a certain extent? And therefore, that's why they're covering things up more so than that they would be loyal to Rebecca.
Okay.
Yeah.
Possibly, right? And then you also have, I think I just lost my train of thought.
The other case was the boy who shot his dad because he was abusive to his mom.
Right, and so that, and that as well as potentially the case with the woman who had a secret identity, it's basically like, you never know what people are going through in their private lives, as well as the whole Stockholm syndrome, right? And I don't know where that's going, but they keep bringing that up in terms of, for the Stockholm syndrome, basically, look, what you have to do is you figure out the ringleader, and you say it was all the ringleader's idea. So to me, what that's leading me to think is eventually everyone's going to turn on everyone, and there's going to be a ringleader. So whether or not that ringleader is Annalise or whether that ringleader is Wes. Does that make sense? Because to me, they're the two leading, not necessarily stars, but they're the two main characters that are basically highlighted in every episode.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I don't know. Well, I'm definitely a little school nerd, so by the time we do our next episode, for episode 6, I think I might have to actually write up a cute little chart so that we can keep track of this, because I just have a weird feeling that they're leading us down a road, and that each of these individual cases and the nuggets that we learn from those cases are going to be relevant.
No, now that you brought it up, yeah, I can totally see it. Because before I was just like, oh, cool, weekly cases, great. But you do make a good point. Everything they're learning will eventually be helpful in the event that they need to get away with murder or help someone else get away with murder. using that information that they learn. Yeah, yep, that's a good point.
Okay, so yeah, so definitely, and all of you guys out there in the world, whether or not it's on Twitter, on Google+, on YouTube comments, let us know what you think regarding the weekly cases and whether or not the weekly cases are leading us somewhere or to an eventual defense for whoever killed either Sam or Lila. So I guess my last question is it kind of obvious to us who killed Sam, or is it not? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I don't think it's obvious. I think they're trying to make it seem obvious to us. But if you know anything about TV, it's never the obvious choice. So every week we see the girl in the house, distraught, the body of Sam laying on the ground, bleeding and dead. We see the law students coming in, helping her get rid of the body. Wes saying to the girl, "Oh, I'll protect you. I'll take care of you." But stuff like that is never as it seems. We don't know if that little girl walked in and the body was already there. We don't know if she saw who killed the person and that person talked to her and said, "Listen, we're going to take care of it. Just act like, don't say anything." Because the girl hadn't really spoken since we saw her with the body. So I don't think it's as obvious as it seems. Because even if it were, I don't care who you are. She seems like a melancholy person, and she says she makes people uncomfortable on purpose. She likes doing that. But there ain't nothing you can tell me that will make me believe that she killed him and was just sitting in that chair all calm like that. I don't believe it.
Okay, that's a good point. That's actually an excellent point. How about you, Bam? What do you think?
I don't believe that it's obvious, although there's something, I didn't really like Rebecca's character at first. She didn't really strike a chord with me until this past episode 5, where when she went upstairs to the bathroom and she realized that the wallpaper. And so when she went upstairs to tell Wes that I had to go to the restroom, I immediately thought, because she's such a sneaky person, is she going upstairs to plant something? Like, what's her motive? But she really obviously had to go to the bathroom, and then boom, she just happened to see the wallpaper. So she's very smart. That's one thing that you could say about her. She's very smart. So I'm not really sure about her character. But the one thing that she does have in common with Annalise is they're both very manipulating toward Wes. It's like 1 minute, get away from me. The next minute, okay, now I need you to be my friend. And so they're both somewhat similar when it comes to their relationship with Wes.
Well, take that one step further. How do you think that Annalise manipulates Wes?
Oh my gosh! From the time that he walked into to the office and saw her having sexual relationship with her boyfriend Nate, when then they were at the dinner or the luncheon or something, they went into the bathroom and she did this whole crying thing, and the way that she was caressing them all on the chest, saying, "Oh, thank you, please, keep this a secret. My husband and I were having problems, blah 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 blah." And then he's now picked as one of the 5 when there was only original 4.
I'm gonna cut you off on purpose. So do you think he was picked, and we talked about this a little bit offline, do you think he was picked as one of the 5 to keep him quiet, or do you think he was picked as one of the 5 because he actually is that good, so she decided to add an extra person to her law firm?
I think it's a mixture of both. I do think she likes him, and I do think he's good, but then also remember, when they had their 1 minute presentation, she allowed him to go last. So did she allow him to go last because he was waitlisted, or because she was giving him an advantage?
Funny thing is, it's actually the opposite. Going last is the worst possible situation, because you remember the whole scenario? You couldn't repeat someone else's defense.
Yeah.
So think about it. If there's 300 people in a room, right, and you studied and you thought of 5 different defenses, that means if I go last and you, Bam, come up with all 5, and then Cornelia comes up with a couple new ones, then I literally on the spot have to figure out something that 300 other first-year law students didn't come up with. It was a punishment.
Gotcha.
It was a punishment. And I think he rose to the occasion, because even though his argument seemed out of the box, I think she really liked his out-of-the-box thinking. And I also think that there's something about Wes, and we talked about this again a little bit offline, there's something about Wes that not only does she like, but I think she is empathetic to, i.e. that there's something about him that reminds him of her. I haven't figured out what yet, but there's definitely something there.
Well,
she really respects him in a way that she's looking at herself.
I do, and I agree with you, and I also like the fact that out of the other students, he somewhat stands up to her versus the other students. The other students are a little timid and scared around her, but he actually speaks his mind. And when he checked her, go ahead.
No, I mean, no, you're correct. But remember when Laurel was like, I'm actually not showing off, I was just answering your question. So Laurel is starting to, I think, step up and kind of match him. What do you think, Camelia?
Yeah, I agree. It's him and Laurel, but Laurel stands up in the sense of, so she won't look like she doesn't belong there. You know what I mean? Like when she stood up and said that, it was kind of like, you're not going to play me in front of everybody. I belong here just like everybody else sitting in these. As with Wes seems to stand up to her like he didn't have a mom and a dad, or like he was that little boy at the mall who would cuss his mom out and say, Mom, I hate you, I'm going to kill you, I hate your guts. And then the parents were like, oh, I'm sorry. He seemed like that kid.
But see, the thing with Laurel is she was embarrassed once because she answered for Wes in one of the classes, and she embarrassed her. So it's kind of one of these things where when she was trying to show off, she was like, I don't like those kind of people. So she was already embarrassed in front of the class. So the second time when she was like, no, I'm not trying to show off, she really had to defend herself because she's already portrayed by the law students a certain way. So I think it's a little different.
Okay, well, we're definitely going to carry on this conversation in previous or preceding episodes. But let's kind of just dissect a couple of the cases. Bam, you touched on some of them when you were talking about Annalise and Wes, but there are definitely some pivotal cases or pivotal scenes in this show, which the Twitterverse is abuzz regarding, specifically regarding Viola and whether or not she's going to be nominated for an Emmy. But let's start off with the first one where we see her in bed with her head wrap on. How did you guys when you saw it, did it even resonate with you? When you saw it, were you like, oh my God, I can't believe that she has her head wrapped. I've never seen a woman or a woman of color on, primetime national television in bed with her headscarf on.
I'm happy they keep it true to I like that it was sister friendly. However, I mean, I think it was more impactful for people who weren't familiar with it than it was for those of us who do wear headscarves. Meaning, I didn't see the episode live. One of my coworkers saw it live. And when she saw it the next day, she said, oh my God, she had on the thing on her head, like how you talked about. So I think it was more impactful because people finally saw in real time what some black women have been talking about for a long time. But I'm glad it wasn't like an old Tupac Aunt Jemima scarf. Like, I'm glad it was nice and satin. I'm glad it was, a nice one. It wasn't dirty. Like, some people don't wash their head scarves and it's just real nasty. I like that it looked decent. And she had on real pajamas with it. She didn't just have on like an old t-shirt that she got from the gym and some hoop shorts. It was cool.
Well, it's real, and and we brothers, we wear do-rags on our heads, but when we go to bed, when we're riding in the car before we have to, get out the car, so it's natural. But are we gonna jump to the other part when she removed her wig?
Well, go ahead, Bam.
Well, I like that, and I personally believe that was probably something Valletta wanted to do because Viola, yes, because I remember when she was nominated for The Help, when she went to the SAG Screen Awards, which she ironically decided not to wear her wig or her weaves. That's when she actually won. And so she's always stated how, she always has to look a certain way for Hollywood. So I believe that that was something that she wanted to do to prove, to show that, I'm on prime time, I have this vehicle, I want to remove the wig. But as far as I got a little off track, but I liked it, and I thought it was authentic. My only problem with that was how she looked. Viola doesn't look that busted in real life, and the fact that it just seemed uncombed. Normally when our grandmothers and things like that, when they would wear wigs, their hair was plaited and it's nice and neat underneath the stocking cap. Her head looked like Who Shot John and Forgot to Kill Him, and I didn't like that aspect because I felt that was not a true representation of how black women look when they take their wig off.
Do you think that, or let me rephrase that, I've been going back and forth with this scene as well, and I think that it is a powerful scene for more than one reason. It's not just that she takes off her wig, right? If I remember the sequence of events, she takes off her ring and it plops down. I think that's telling. Then she takes off her bracelet. Then she takes off her wig. Then she takes off each individual eyelash, takes a baby wipe, and starts to remove her makeup. Now, maybe it's me because I'm getting vain and I'm getting older, but I literally always treat my face with care. She wasn't treating her face with care. It's almost like she was smearing the makeup off, like she was removing the mask, and the mask was starting to eat at her.
Yeah.
There's something very Shakespearean about that scene for me, right? It's literally like she was morphing, and she was disgusted at not only who the mask signified, but when everything was removed, she almost also seemed disgusted and or not familiar with the face, makeup free without the wig that she was seeing.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that it was actually, let's say, more dramatic than reality, because I think that's what they were trying to show. Like, it felt very, I think that's the word. It felt very Shakespearean. It felt very dramatic without it being forced. So I think that's what you were supposed to see. You were supposed to see this extremely powerful, dynamic, intelligent boss woman, and all of a sudden you saw her in the most vulnerable of ways, as if she was a completely different person, and in no way similar to the person that we saw literally just 30 seconds before when she sat down.
Yeah.
I think it was done on purpose, but I do agree with you that it was overly dramatic, and maybe that's not theoretically exactly what she would look like going to bed. Is that kind of what you were saying, Ban?
Yeah. I just yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. How about you, Cornelia? How did that scene play for you?
I was looking at more of on the outside production aspect in the actual show.
Okay.
She's trying to get that Emmy, honey. She is not playing with these fools out here. She took that wig off and wiped that makeup off like she was coming for these clowns. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, and I said that out loud. I said, she's coming for these clowns. She didn't win the Oscar. She's always had great roles, but she never is victorious in a sense when it comes to Hollywood and winning things and being recognized. So I think she said, I'm going to take this wig off and I'm going to take these lashes off because I'm not playing in these streets. That's what I thought.
Well said, well said. And how do you think it played out that in the midst of no makeup, her wig is off, you know what I mean? She's in her bedroom, so this is her nighttime routine. Sam comes in, kisses her on the neck, and then she turns and then says,
why is this dead girl's penis on your phone?
I mean, for me, that literally was one of those moments on the show where I was like, wait, what? Because
but she knew whose penis it was. His face isn't in that. She know what that penis looks like.
And can I say something? I did not realize that until the end of episode 5. I didn't realize that his face wasn't in the picture. Like, I the whole time was thinking, oh, of course Wes knows that, he was cheating with Lila because obviously his picture's on the phone and blah, 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 blah. I didn't even make the connection. No, you're right, Cornelia. So what do we think about how cool and calm she was initially about saying that to Sam, and then fast forward to the beginning of the next episode when they're kind of having a little bit of a tussle, and he is explaining to her, it was only for a summer, it was only a couple of times, the girl was lost, she was broken. How did that scene play out with us, especially figuring out that Annalise is his second wife and was his previous mistress?
And then also remember that in an episode prior, when he was in the shower, she went into his phone and she did a search of the girl's name, and there was an email came up. And then later on, I believe in another episode or later on in the scene, when she Google searched Lila's name again, then he erased all the messages. So she knows about his cheating ways, and he knows that he obviously that Annalise checks the phone, which is why he went to delete, because he saw that she had her hand behind her back, and so he figured it out. So it would only make sense that she played it cool because she's aware of what she knows he is.
I guess let me ask my question from a slightly different perspective. Do you think it was weird that she was so cool, given the fact that what she said is, why is your penis on a dead girl's phone?
Well, I do think she's a lawyer, so she's not some erratic, what? I wasn't expecting her to throw phone books and anything.
But she did. But as the scene progressed, that's exactly what she did.
Right, but that was only because he was lying to her, knowing that she knew what was going on, and she was asking because, like, it's one thing when you ask someone, hey, my Snickers is gone in the refrigerator. Did you eat it? It's only 2 people that live in a house. My Snickers is gone. It's in the refrigerator. I know I didn't eat it. So therefore, I know you ate my Snicker, but you're going to have the audacity to tell me that you don't know where my Snickers went? Then I'm going to get pissed, and now I'm going to throw something at you. That's how I felt she took it.
Yeah, I agree. It's very way to exhale when Angela Bassett went into the closet. When she first walked into the closet, she looked around, and it was real cool, and she was like talking to herself like, who he think I am, and blah, 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 blah. And then she went crazy and got the wagon. It takes time for the anger to build up, and you can't come out the gate. You got to finesse it. The way she acts was very smooth. Hey, why is your penis in this girl's phone? Oh, cool. And then you get angry.
Well said. So again, were we surprised? Was it a revelation for us that she used to be his mistress?
Yes.
No, for me it wasn't, because when you look at the relationship between she and her boyfriend Nate, she's very thirsty.
So take it a step further for me. How does her being thirsty mean that she was Sam's mistress?
Because she doesn't, her professional life and how she's so tough is completely opposite of her real life. So she comes off as if she has low self-esteem issues and so forth. So to me, it seems that she comes off as she has low self-esteem issues. She even mentioned that when they were having the conversation about how she became the mistress when he was married.
I guess my point is, before that point, is that what you thought? So for instance, this is what my point is. I literally would have never ever suspected that she had previously not only been a mistress, but had been Sam's mistress. I didn't see that coming, number one. Number two, I definitely didn't see that Sam in any way made her. She seems like someone, to a certain extent, and I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth, that came out of the womb talking and defending and being a boss and being dynamic and engaging and argumentative and always in control of every situation. That's, to me, how she comes across, because even in moments where she should have an emotional response, she doesn't. Everything with her is so matter of fact. And especially even with her husband, the fact that her husband says on several occasions, I would never begin to tell Annalise what to do with her professional career. It definitely seems like of the two of them, she is the star. She is the showpiece, right? And if anything, he is more ornamental, and he does psychology. Even, you know, the first time that the students meet him, he's like, yes, I'm not a lawyer, I know, but it's okay. Even though I'm a psychologist, I work on legal cases, kind of to make sure that they know I'm not less than you. But he really knows that in terms of from an intellectual perspective, lawyers by nature, and this is going to be an overgeneralization, kind of think that they're smarter than everybody else. I would have never thought that Annalise would have been the mistress. If anything, I would have thought that it would have been the reverse, but not that she would have been the one who would have been the mistress.
See, I'm a guy, so my perspective is totally different. I know plenty women who, in their professional life, they're boss, they're at the top of their game. But when it comes to the relationship, they're totally different and opposite. So I'm a guy, so my perspective is different. But you know, I didn't predict that this would happen, but I wasn't surprised once it was revealed.
Okay. Okay. How about you, Cornelia?
I agree with the point that I didn't see that one coming, and I wouldn't have assumed that she was a mistress. Meaning, as a woman, when you hear somebody's a mistress, you kind of stereotype them off the bat. You think weak, real needy, always kind of been like striving for a relationship, always been that girl that's like, oh, I want a boyfriend. And once they break up with one dude, they immediately go to another dude because they can't be alone. That's what you kind of generalize. Well, at least I do when I hear somebody was a mistress. And for her to be who she is and as smart as she is, because most smart women, well, I wouldn't even say book smarts. If you street smarts, you kind of get in the back of your mind, no, if he meets you as his mistress, he's going to get another one while y'all together. So for that reason, I would have assumed that she wouldn't put herself in that situation because she is so educated and she's so on top of her game. I just wouldn't have thought that she would be the one.
Okay.
But
excellent.
I'm wrong.
No, excellent point. And I guess this leads to the last pivotal scene is when Rebecca informs Wes basically that Annalise and Sam are in it together, and basically she tells him to check the wallpaper. We see him in a hoodie, basically in Annalise's house, and basically she comes out and she's like, "What are you doing? Why are you here?" And he basically says, "The wallpaper. It was Sam. You knew all along it was Sam." Why do you think then that Annalise is still supporting and or protecting her husband?
I think it's because they're married, and that she does love him, and you want to protect. You don't. If what I assume about a marriage is, if you get some information, you don't immediately turn your back on that person until you know for a fact that they did it. And as a lawyer, and that's everything she's teaching her students, that's what she's basically staying true to what she's teaching them in the daytime. You don't judge the person based on what you assume they did. You find out all the facts, and then you win the case. You don't necessarily take a person's side or not take their side. So I mean, I don't expect her to turn her back. I honestly, even when we do like a prediction segment, I don't think she'll ever turn her back on him. Oh, never mind. I take that back. I think she will.
Well, I think what she's doing is, you know, like I said, you know, her personal life may not be as great as her professional life, but as far as professionalism, there was a conversation that they were having, and when she asked him about his whereabouts, she said, good eye contact. So she's still trying to figure out whether or not he did this, which is why he had Rebecca come over. She didn't tell him that Rebecca was coming over. So she was in there listening. So she's basically treating this just like a legal case, trying to figure out whether or not her husband killed Alila.
And do you think that at that moment, do you think that when he brought Rebecca in so that Sam could basically do a psychological analysis, do you think that she was doing that so she could figure out whether or not Sam did it, or to see whether or not Rebecca knew that Sam was somehow involved? Or do you think that the two are somehow connected?
I think she was trying to both. I think both. She was trying to figure out both.
I agree. I think both.
Yeah, but one problem that I have is why doesn't she lock the door when she didn't lock the door, so she called Frank when Wes walked in on her with Nate, and then Wes walks in with the hoodie to confront her. Why don't you have? Why do you not have security? Why is your door not locked? I have a problem with that.
I agree.
I have a problem with that. And then I have another problem with the fact of how not only Annalise, but the girl Michaela, how when she confronted her boyfriend Aiden.
Well, you know what? We might have to save that. Just for our next episode. Unless can you do it short and sweet?
Just the whole thing about how they don't like being lied to, but yet they're both lying. Like like Annalise is confronting her husband about, did you do it? Don't lie to me. But she's having an affair. And then Michaela, you murdered somebody or you're a part of a murder, but you're trying to confront your boyfriend about him lying to you and not telling the truth. So it's just that whole hypocritical thing. It's like, really? I have a problem.
And I would 100% disagree with you, Bam. I think that there's like quote unquote Dante's levels of hell. I think that lying about a murder that somehow you after the fact that became involved with that has to do with other people is completely different than divulging past sexual dalliances, especially if you've affirmatively had that conversation. So with Malika, is it Malika or Malika? I always don't want to say her name wrong.
It's Michaela Pratt.
Michaela, thank you, Michaela Pratt. So she and her fiance had conversations about people they had previously been with, and he omitted that. I think that's a big difference.
But no, it's not, because when they
listen, because now is she supposed to murder someone and now call her boyfriend and be like, oh, hey, just want to let you know that I murdered somebody?
No, but if you're going to have a conversation about being honest, and let's also...
At the point when she had that conversation, no murder had occurred.
Okay, but my point... Okay.
At the point when she had the conversation, no murder had occurred, correct?
Yes, it did occur because she was laying in bed having a flashback of the flashback, and then he walked into the door, and she's like, "Oh my God, what are you doing here? I thought you left last night." So
okay, maybe we're viewing those different. To me, the time sequence was that the murder hadn't happened when he came to visit, and that's even more importantly why when you keep seeing the flashback, that's why she still had her ring on, and that's why they put the sequence because. Go ahead, Cornelia.
Even if it happened before, later, now, the future, whenever, you're not telling nobody that you murdered somebody. I don't care what they told you in confidence before. If you and a group of your classmates, friends, or somebody, that's not information that you just share just because you want to keep a clean slate with you and your man.
Well then, if that's not information that you share, then you don't need to be that hard on Aiden. And then also remember, when they were having the conversation, when he came out the bathroom, she said we discussed all of our exes in the past. Well, technically speaking, Aiden and that jerk Connor, they were not together. It was I guess a one-time tete-a-tete. So technically, he was not an ex. My point is. You cannot be so hard on somebody for not revealing some information, and you have this huge secret that can come to bite you in the ass later on. You need to lighten up a little bit. That's my problem, and I'm done.
Yeah, I think we'll agree to disagree, but let us know on social media, whether or not it's on Twitter, on YouTube, on Google+, what you think. So do you agree with Bam that lying is lying and that, regardless of whether or not they've committed a murder, they should let their loved ones know? Or do you feel like Cornelia and myself that the murder in of itself needs to be kept secret in order for them to protect their own lives and their own freedom, and it is very different than omitting whether or not you slept with Connor, of all people, Connor. So again, let us know either on Twitter, on YouTube, or on Google+, how you feel about lying, whether or not it's cheating, whether or not it's murder, or whether or not it's having had sex with Connor. So, you guys, I hope that you've enjoyed our first segment of the Rap Report, How to Get Away with Murder. Where can everyone get a hold of you so they can continue the conversation?
You can find me at Cornelia on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
And you can find me on all social media at Bam Erickson.
And you can find me on all social media at Sophia Stanley. Again, this was the Rap Report, How to Get Away with Murder. We hope that you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.